Rupinim Vivekanandamacharyam Natva Vakshami Shuddhe. In our last class, we discussed the case of gopis. So Narada presents them as ideal devotees. They did everything for the sake of the Lord. Tadarpita akhila acharata. And they felt extreme anguish when even for a second they missed the Lord or the thought of the Lord. So that was as example he presented. The objections are raised about gopis and all that. So we discussed those also with a word of caution from Swamiji himself, Swami Vivekananda, that one should not try to study, forget about practice, discuss about this love of gopis unless one is absolutely pure to the extent of forgetting one's body. With this caution in mind, we discuss, because Narada has raised the subject. So the objection is that Gopi's love was earthly. Gopi's love towards Krishna was earthly and hence it was illicit. Narada refutes by saying that Gopi's love for Krishna was not earthly. It could not be earthly because they were fully aware of the glories of Krishna, Mahatmya Jnana. They were fully aware of the Mahatmya, of the glory of Sri Krishna. Two reasons. One is they were witness to many superhuman feats of Krishna while in Vrindavan. And secondly, they themselves told Sri Krishna that we know you are not an ordinary person. You are the witness in all the jivas. Sakala dehinam antaratma. You are the antaratma, the inner self, witness in all the jivas. So they themselves reveal to Krishna what they think of Krishna. So they are fully aware of Krishna's glory. And as such, their love cannot be earthly and cannot be illicit. The question comes, how could they so freely move with Krishna if they are aware of his glory? Generally, when we are aware of someone's glory, we maintain a distance. So the answer is that their love was so intense that it, so to say, submerged their awareness of the glory of Krishna. Just as mother's love submerges her awareness of her son's position and all that. So Gopi's love for Krishna was so intense that it just submerged from their consciousness, awareness of his glories. But it's not that they were not aware of it, and as such, that love cannot be earthly. The other reason why this love cannot be earthly, Narada gives, is that in their love, there was tat sukha sukhitvam. They were happy in the happiness of Krishna. Now, this is a quality which is not found in earthly love. This tat sukha sukhitvam, finding happiness, the lover finding happiness in the happiness of the beloved, this quality is not found in the earthly love. In earthly love, lover's happiness to some measure is always involved in that relationship. But in the love of the gopis, they had no idea about their own happiness. They were not even aware of their own body, what to speak of their own happiness. So their whole soul, so to say, was drawn to Krishna, and only thought they had was the happiness of Krishna. This is not found in earthly love, and hence Gopi's love was not earthly. So two reasons he gives. And of course we discussed Swami Vivekananda gave one reason, saying that the recorder of this episode is Shuka Bhagwan himself, who was, so to say, purity personified right from his birth. So if such a pure person has recorded this episode, there is no reason for us to even doubt that love could be earthly. So this is what we discussed, and of course, Sri Ramakrishna tells, when he is asked about the historicity, whether gopis really existed, he says it doesn't matter. This literature is here. And there is some person who felt such kind of intense love, who lived mentally the lives of gopis. So even if physically gopis did not exist, there was some person who actually lived their life. So that is enough a reason for us to aspire after that intense love. We need not try to imitate their attitude towards Krishna, but the intensity of that love we should aspire for. So this is what we saw. Now up to here, see, we have seen 24 sutras in which first the definition of parabhakti was given, and then how it is of the form of nirodha. Nirodha by meaning nirodha, abandoning all dependence on the world and taking refuge only in God. For our happiness, for security, for peace, depending only on God, giving up all dependence on the world. Anya Shrayanam Tyaga. And performing all actions in a spirit of dedication, in a way that they are productive to bhakti. This is what nirodha is. And bhakti is of the form of nirodha. So this nirodha was discussed. And then the lakshanas of bhakti by different acharyas were given. Narada himself gave his own explanation as to how bhakti manifests in the lives of bhaktas. Either it is a dynamic expression in a form of devotion to service or devotion to singing the glories of the Lord, like that. Different definitions or different explanations or characteristics as to how bhakti manifests in the lives of devotees. And Narada gave his own explanation. Naradastu tadarpita akhila acharata tadvismarane parama vyakulata. As an example, he quoted the gopis. So that's what we see now. The next topic is, so to say, Narada is going to compare bhakti with other paths. So Narada, being a preacher of bhakti, so he is going to compare bhakti with other path and say that bhakti is greater than others. Satu karma jnana yoge bhyopi adhikataraha. So his bhakti is adhikatara, is greater than karma, jnana and yoga. What these mean we'll see, but this is the literal translation. So bhakti is greater than karma, jnana and yoga. So it's a glory of bhakti he is telling. And he himself gives reasons. Phala rupatvat, because it is of the form of result. Phala rupa, of the form of result. And another reason he gives, Ishwarasyapi abhimana dveshitvat dainya priyatvat. God hates, literal translation will be hates, but God dislikes egoistic attitude, abhimana, and likes humility. This is the reason given to substantiate the claim that bhakti is greater than karma, jnana and yoga. One reason is it is of the form of result. Second is God likes humility and dislikes egoistic attitude. So these are the two reasons given. Let's see, bhakti, as we have discussed earlier, this whole bhakti marga is split into two, the apara bhakti and para bhakti. The definitions and all that we have studied, they all pertain to para bhakti. Sahatu asmin parama prema rupa, amrita swarupa. All those are definitions of para bhakti. That is the goal. That is the state of God realization, so to say, and the phala. And apara bhakti is the means, the path, the efforts, the stage of efforts. That is called apara bhakti, which is not apara. So this distinction we have to keep in mind as we try to understand these sutras. Now, two interpretations are given for these sutras, mainly the word sa. What bhakti is spoken of here as being higher than karma, jnana or yoga? Is it parabhakti or aparabhakti? Or bhakti in general? One of the explanations says that here by bhakti is meant parabhakti. This explanation fits in with Narada's logic, whatever reasons he has given in the next sutra. So this explanation of taking sa to mean parabhakti. Parabhakti is higher than karma, jnana, yoga. This interpretation fits in with the next sutra. So parabhakti is higher, greater than karma, jnana, yoga. Here karma means the karma yoga, path. Jnana means jnana yoga, the path. And yoga means this aparabhakti in this interpretation. Yoga is not here taken to mean Raja Yoga, Patanjali Yoga, but aparabhakti. Bhakti as a path. Karma Yoga as a path. Jnana Yoga as a path. So the interpretation becomes parabhakti is higher than karma path, karma yoga as a path, jnana yoga as a path, bhakti yoga as a path. And the reason is phalarupatvat, because it is of the form of result. Because parabhakti, as we just now said, is the result of aparabhakti. That is the goal. And because it is the result, it is higher than all the paths, including the path of bhakti itself. That becomes one interpretation. And I said it fits in with Narada's explanation, Narada's reason given by Narada, saying that it is of the form of result. Parabhakti is a result. It is the goal. So it nicely fits in. It somehow doesn't tally with, or it doesn't sound reasonable humanly. Because comparing goal with the path is not a fair comparison. We can compare goal with the goal or path with the path, but comparing a goal with the path doesn't sound fair comparison. Goal will always be higher than the path. And hence a second interpretation comes in. The second interpretation is humanly quite reasonable. We find it very reasonable, wherein we say the bhakti that is compared is aparabhakti, which is a path. And that is higher than karma marga, jnana marga, yoga marga. Now here again, karma means the path of karma, jnana means the path of jnana, and yoga means the path of Raja Yoga, as presented by Patanjali Maharshi. So aparabhakti as a path, bhakti as a path is higher than karma or jnana or yoga as paths. This comparison seems fair. But the explanation, phalarupatvat, that becomes a bit difficult to understand and explain. How would you explain bhakti as a path being phalarupa and hence greater than other paths? Of course, explanation is given. Fairly reasonable explanation, but slightly difficult. The explanation is like this. Now, karma traditionally is not accepted to have its own philosophy. It has its own philosophy, no goal as such. It is an auxiliary or a preliminary practice for jnana yoga. By nishkam karma, one becomes pure and becomes fit to undertake the practice of jnana yoga. So obviously karma has no goal of its own. When it comes to jnana yoga, so one has to practice first, acquire this sadhana chatushtaya, viveka, vairagya, shama, dhamma, all that. And then shravana, manana, nidhyasana, all the practice is there. And after that, there is result in the form of knowledge of the self. So you can say either take karma or you can take jnana. The result is knowledge of the self. This stage of result, state of knowledge, is entirely distinct from the state of sadhana. The state of knowledge is entirely distinct from the state of sadhana. The two do not seem to have much of connect. The sadhana and the phala do not seem to have much of a connect. Same holds good for practice of Raja Yoga also. You start with yama niyama, practice them, and then asana, pranayama, pratyahara, breathing exercises, and then control the mind, and then chitta vritti, nirodha, cessation. This is all the path. The result is again the knowledge of Purusha or one's own self being entirely distinct from Prakriti. Purusha Prakriti Viyoga. So Purusha being entirely distinct from Prakriti, that knowledge, that is the goal. Again, the two are entirely distinct. The state of realization, the goal, and the state of sadhana, entirely distinct. There is no common thread, so to say, between the two. This is the case of these three yogas. Whereas when it comes to bhakti, it's an entirely different scenario. According to these bhakti scriptures, even the crudest form of bhakti, what is it? We love God, we love the world. Our love is scattered, but the love is there. The same love, through practice of devotional exercises, it gets focused on God. Presently, we love God because we want something. There is selfishness involved in our love of God. It is vitiated, so to say. But we keep on practicing spiritual disciplines. And the same love, so to say, transforms itself, transmutes itself into parabhakti. There is that continuation of love from lowest to highest stage. We start with love, and what is the goal? It is also love. The sadhana is love, the sadhya is love. It is phalarupa, it is its own result. There is this continuity. The effort seamlessly merges into the goal. We start with love, presently it is vitiated, impure. Impure in the sense that it is vitiated with self-centeredness, with selfishness, with scatteredness. It is scattered. But same love, it becomes focused, it becomes purer and purer, and then that transmutes itself into parabhakti, supreme love, where it just dissolves, so to say, that devotee's limited individuality. So there is this continuation of love throughout. It is its own result, and this is the uniqueness of bhakti over other yogas, over other paths, and hence bhakti is adhikatara, is higher than karma and yoga and your jnana. So that is the explanation given. In all those paths, there is this disconnect between the path and the goal. Whereas in bhakti, there is no disconnect. We start with love, that love takes us forward, it ends in love. Love seeking itself, so to say. So this is the uniqueness of bhakti. It is phalarupa, and hence it is higher. That is the one explanation given. The other explanation are the reason given. So these are the two interpretations. And the other reason that Narada Maharshi gives is Ishwarasya Abhimana Dveshitvat Dainya Priyatvat. Cha. Cha means and, that is additional reason. Here we have to understand God is impartial. God doesn't hate people who are egoistic and all that. So what this means is that progress in spiritual life is difficult if one has an egoistic attitude and one lacks humility. So egoistic attitude and lack of humility, they go hand in hand. So these are obstacles in spiritual life. What has that to do with bhakti being higher than karma, jnana and yoga? The trick or the reason is, in bhakti yoga, these obstacles are automatically removed. Because there is one element in Bhakti Yoga which is almost absent in other yogas. That is the element of God. Pure Jnana Yogi, pure Karma Yogi, Raja Yogi, they do not believe in God. Raja Yoga believes in God, but Ishvara Pranidhanat Va. Va is alternate. Okay, you can get it through Ishvara Pranidhana also. That is not the focus. And Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, there is no concept of seeking help from God. Whereas in Bhakti Yoga, right from day one, we depend on God. We are aware of our weaknesses. We are aware of the scattered nature of our love and our mind. And we pray to God to help us, to give us that bala, that strength, that wisdom, to control our mind, to check our kleshas. And this process itself makes us aware of our weaknesses. And it takes off that egoistic attitude from bhakta and brings in humility automatically. Because there is element of God, we seek the help of God in Bhakti Yoga. The nature is such, the nature of this Bhakti Yoga is such that automatically it removes all egoistic ideas from the mind of a devotee. It instills humility in the mind of a devotee. When we become aware of our weaknesses, of our shortcomings, automatically we become humble and less egoistic. That attitude of egoism, one being superior, that automatically goes away from the mind of a bhakta, because he or she is seeking God's help at every step in his or her spiritual life. So this is another uniqueness of bhakti, which makes it higher than karma, jnana and yoga. And this is what Narada has told, the two reasons he gives. One is, it is phalarupa, it is of the form of result. It is its own result. We begin with love, we end in love. There is this common thread of love flowing throughout the path and the goal in Bhakti Yoga, which is missing in other three yogas. And Bhakti Yoga, by its very structure, inculcates humility and takes off egoistic attitude, which doesn't happen in other yogas. In other yogas, one has to practice on one's own strength as directed by Guru. There is help of Guru, but there is no help of God. So there is danger, because one doesn't seek the help of God. So there is danger that one might develop an egoistic attitude and lack the spirit of humility in other yogas, because those are based only on self-effort. This danger is not there in Bhakti Yoga, and hence Bhakti is adhikatara. All right. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.